Hello! We're going to be oddly specific today. We're going to be covering your true identity, your inner archetype, all based on your Holy Grail watch. If you're ready for a very detailed, in-depth dive into who you truly are, let's get started. If your ideal watch is the Casio F91W, a genuinely famous watch that only costs about 10 freedom dollars, it was released in 1989. The brand is very famous for creating watches that last far beyond, years beyond what you'd normally expect. For some reason, this watch reminds me of a Tarantino fan. You probably know that Pulp Fiction isn't just about the story, and that Reservoir Dogs says a lot in the first 10 minutes, a lot more than most films. And you love that Quentin Tarantino would have given up completely on Inglourious Basterds if he hadn't found Christoph Waltz, who can speak convincingly in German, English, French, and Italian. And like Tarantino, you prefer things that are still good years later. You do not care for trends or the newest version of something that worked perfectly fine before. And just like this watch, and just like a Tarantino film, you are impossible to replace. The Tissot PRX, specifically in this green dial, appeals to those who appreciate the 1970s integrated bracelet look. If you own this, then perhaps a part of you is a chef or a waiter at a Michelin star restaurant in Tribeca. You probably have a tattoo sleeve. You'd probably look better in this watch than anyone else can. You scribble your thoughts in Moleskine notebooks. You miss that wrought argent doesn't perform anymore. And you have an incredible taste for 1960s British classic rock. If your ideal watch is the Hamilton 9219 from the Vietnam War era, or its modern version, which is the Hamilton khaki field watch, I picture you being the wholesome dad at a July 4th American Independence Day barbecue, flipping the burgers and the hot dogs, making sure everyone has a nice cold beer in their hand if they want one. One of your hats is an American sports team that no longer exists, and we would like tips on how to cook our steaks and ribs better. If your ideal watch is the Santos de Cartier, it was allegedly the first wristwatch for a pilot. I bet girls have fallen at your feet your entire life. Good for you. Now tell us how you did it. The lesser-known Lord Marvel line was Seiko's first high-end luxury watch line. A couple years later, the Grand Seiko line was created, and after that, King Seiko. If your Holy Grail is the Seiko Lord Marvel, you are probably the most discreet person out of all of the discreet people out there. I'm guessing you wear a sun hat, sunglasses, a face mask, and long sleeves wherever possible, ensuring that no one within a 1,000-foot radius will ever suspect that you like watches, or that you have a nice Grand Seiko at home. You can identify a watch from a blurry photo or a split second, as long as it has a Japanese movement. The next time I blink, you'll be gone. If your Holy Grail is a Grand Seiko spring drive, this is very interesting. The spring drive movement doesn't tick. The second hand just moves seamlessly, continuously, just glides around the watch. And that's a nearly perfect measure of real time. You likely believe that Japanese movements are unmatched, and if anyone disagrees, then they will not be hearing the secrets of your carefully honed at-home matcha brewing process. And you acknowledge the Swiss produce a good watch about once a century. If you own an FP journe, let's say reference RQ, which looks a little bit like body parts, or if this is your dream watch, then you would probably have a watch that's obscure enough to be praised by watch critics, but also popular enough that the New Yorkers will give you a nice compliment. At 5:30 today, you thought about going to the gym and eventually made it at 5:45. At 8:02, you called your financial advisor. And at 10:03, you texted your mother and you said, "Mama, we've had quite a lot of trips to the south of France lately. Is that something that we can reconsider?" If your preferred watch is the lange und söhne, lange 1, and then you recognize the need for gorgeous movements, and this watch is one of the icons. You have a selection of dry-cleaned, tailored white button-down shirts. You'd probably look down on my husband's made-to-measure suit for being far too commercial. When you place your pen down onto a desk, you ensure it rests at a pleasing angle. You've been practicing drawing straight lines with a writing utensil for years, and now you can do it freehand. If your holy grail is the Zenith Chronomaster Revival Shadow, then you loved playing Nintendo games growing up, and you felt really good when you turned in your homework. Most of the people around you do not fully appreciate your intelligence and your character. You're a genuinely kind person, you don't seek attention, and when you're finally in the spotlight, you tend to downplay your achievements. You carefully phrase the story of your watch as the first fully integrated automatic chronograph, rather than aggressively claiming it as the first automatic chronograph outright. If someone tries to talk over you with their half-baked opinions about watches and horology, then you let them dig themselves into a little hole, and then finally tell them something that's extremely well-researched and articulated. If you own a Rolex Datejust, you are a domesticated herbivorous quadruped known for your dense, insulating fleece that grows continuously and requires periodic shearing. Your cloven hooves provide stability on a variety of terrains, from rolling pastures to rugged hillsides. As a ruminant, your digestive system consists of 4 compartments. This adaptation allows you to extract nutrients efficiently from grasses and other vegetation, making you well suited to grazing environments. Your social nature is deeply ingrained and you exhibit strong flocking behavior, relying on the presence of your companions for safety and comfort. Throughout history, you have been an invaluable resource to human societies, providing not only fiber for textiles, but also milk, meat, and even companionship in some cultures. You are often tended by skilled herders who use traditional methods or trained working animals to guide and protect you. Whether grazing on lush meadows or navigating arid landscapes, your resilience and adaptability make you a vital presence in agricultural systems worldwide. If your holy grail is the Omega Speedmaster Professional, the 1960s version of this watch apparently went on the moon, but for that you would have to believe in the moon landing to begin with. Besides the fact that you're not a conspiracy theorist and don't believe in psychic vampires, you've looked up the requirements to go to Texas and go through astronaut training, and you've thought about submitting an application. You feel a little bit too attached to your phone, but you appreciate the memes, and you're glad that you took the plunge and ordered the Apple Silicon Mac, but you've been very disappointed with your PlayStation 5. Finally, if you're thinking about skydiving, you should do it. If your ideal watch is the Patek Philippe Calatrava, which was first launched in 1932, first of all, we probably went to university together. I probably walked by you on the quad outside. Your wardrobe includes slim, but not too slim khakis, a white undershirt, and a fine gauge wool quarter zip in a neutral color. If I were to ask you about the watch, you would quietly say, "My father gave it to me." If your ideal watch is the Patek Philippe Nautilus, this is one of the most desired sports watches in the world. You're a little bit envious of your friends who have private jets, but you can't hear them over the clarity of your Wilson Audio custom speakers. If your ideal watch is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, this is one of the most desired watches in the world of social media. You drive a BMW, but you swear that your Bugatti interview is only a few days away. You lose your patience a bit when people come up to you asking to take a better look at your $500 Casio metal G-Shock. If you're looking for a Kari voutilainen Masterpiece 8 decimal repeater, which chimes the time to you, then one day you're going to need a single artisan in Switzerland who can hand make every single part of your future watch. Not only that, but this person must be present at the time of birth of the cow who would later provide the leather for your bracelet strap. And this same person must individually plant every blade of grass that the cow will eat. Also, the single person must spend their entire life on just one watch for you, meaning that you will have to create a time machine, go back in time, find the baby and their parents, and commission this person to create that one watch for you for their entire lifetime, but complete it before you pass away so that you can enjoy the watch. Then he will deliver it to you on his 100th birthday, and then, only then, will you be done. Going through this list made me appreciate all of the watches a lot more. They all represent a part of the wearer, and the way I see it is just like a piece of art. Something that we choose to wear or create can only be a small representation of our much larger identities and personalities. Even something as so simple as wearing a wristwatch can reflect a small part of who we are. Maybe we learned something about ourselves today. If you own a Rolex Explorer 1 with a black dial and 36mm, you didn't just watch the mountain climbing film The Alpinist, you felt it. As Marc-Andre Leclerc climbed higher, disappearing into snow-covered rock faces with nothing but the sound of the wind around him, you found yourself remembering something from your own childhood. A time when you were smaller, more fearless, when adventure wasn't something to plan, it just happened. Perhaps it was the first time you scrambled up a boulder that felt impossibly tall, or maybe it was the way you used to hide under your bed with your helmet on. You feel that time shouldn't be something that's just managed. It should stretch endlessly like the horizons, and that's why you wear the Explorer. It's just a reminder that there's a quiet thrill of going somewhere interesting and captivating. By the time the credits rolled when you were watching The Alpinist, you sat there for a moment, letting it all sink in, letting the feelings sink in. And it wasn't exactly just sadness, maybe it was a beautiful sadness, but it felt more like a deep and unshakable understanding. You have a connection to the world that feels wild, untamed, and infinite, and you didn't feel the need to explain it to anyone.